Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, tonight, inevitably perhaps, came the first calls for Jeremy Corbyn to quit as Labour leader after some of his MPs felt he was unable to contain the splits emerging in his party. Mr Corbyn had given the parliamentary party until Monday evening to decide whether to back airstrikes in Syria, but just 2 hours ago he sent out an email to all party members which appeared to bypass his own MPs and speak almost in the manner of a plebiscite, if you will, straight to his party members. He's asking them if they want to back airstrikes in Syria and has asked them for their reply by early next week. Well, our political editor, Allegra Stratton, is here. It's been quite an extraordinary day, really, just in sort of history of this party.
Mad. So, day begins with 2 Labour MPs publicly calling on Jeremy Corbyn to go, quite mild-mannered characters. The reason for their deep upset, actually, is they feel activities yesterday. So, you had the meeting of the Labour Shadow Cabinet. People felt this was quite a mature process. And then very quickly, you had an email out from the leader saying that this was his view. He believed that the airstrikes should be opposed. The Shadow Cabinet and much of the Labour Party felt this was disrespectful to that meeting. They hadn't made a conclusion, so they felt very, very irritated, and that led to these people making the comments they made this morning. Now, what's happened this evening, as you allude to, is there's another ploy, which is this direct email trying to find out from members what their opinion is. And as you say, Jeremy Corbyn would like to hear back from them by early next week, ahead of the parliamentary vote. This is, in the view of many people this evening that I've spoken to, another way of undercutting the view of the Shadow Cabinet. Now, my view, speaking to people today, is that they'll end up having to have a free vote. That's where they'll get to. The 2 extreme positions are just both mental. They're balmy. They cannot happen because they would lead to absolute chaos. Just one thought on the particular thing about the free vote is that David Cameron has said he will not bring this to Parliament unless he's certain that he will win it. If Labour has a free vote, it's really unclear which way the numbers fall.
So, in that sense, this is not just about Syria. Right now it's about Syria, the vote, but it's about leadership. So,
over the last few months of Jeremy Corbyn's leadership, I've talked to people about what happens when you have this leader who thinks one thing on a variety of issues. His party disagrees with him, but the wider membership agree with him. And they've said what will happen eventually, they're surprised it's happening so soon, but what will happen is we'll have a series of these direct polls. So, we're seeing it tonight. We're seeing what one person described to me as the beginning of the Corbynista coup. You ignore the Shadow Cabinet, you ignore the parliamentary party, you just keep asking these polls, these almost mini referendums of people to get your steer on policy. Now, one more thing very quickly is the front of the Times, but we've been independently told about it in the last 24 hours, though full credit to the Times. Labour opponents of Jeremy Corbyn have consulted lawyers about the following, which is, for a long time people have felt they can't mount a challenge against Jeremy Corbyn because he would be allowed to automatically stand in any contest, to roll over effectively. So there'd be no point in mounting a challenge because he'd get another chance and he might even come back with an even bigger mandate. Now, Labour's lawyers have told Labour opponents of Corbyn that that's not the case, that he would not automatically get another chance, which obviously emboldens the people who think that this cannot go on too much longer. Now,
this is what you're talking about, the secret bid to oust Corbyn.
Indeed. So my sources had been saying to me that the earliest that anybody could move against Jeremy Corbyn was after next May's elections. Now I am hearing from people who say it could actually be as early as after the result of next Thursday's Oldham by-election.
Allegra, that takes us to an interesting point. Thanks very much. Of course, it is the Parliamentary Labour Party that gets to vote on the issue of whether and how to go to war. But if Jeremy Corbyn's right, then much of the party, right away from Westminster, would actually support his reluctance in this call to arms. He'll face his first electoral test, as Allegra was suggesting, in the shape of a by-election next week, and that's in Oldham. John Sweeney went there to test the political water and see what the people of Oldham feel about Labour's fortunes right now.
Raspberries 2 for a pound, blueberries 2 for a pound, honeydew melons 2 for a pound.
The nation is on the edge of going to war. The security of the Middle East, Europe and Britain too is at issue.
We just want some people.
But in the making of an MP, all politics is local. Welcome to not so sunny Oldham. There's a by-election next week, and it's interesting because it's Jeremy Corbyn's first test as leader of the Labour Party. It's also where the Westminster bubble collides with ordinary British life. Oldham West used to be one of the safest Labour seats in the country. Not anymore. But this time you're going to vote UKIP. Why, if I may ask?
Because it's just the country on all. I think they're letting too many refugees in.
Round the corner from UKIP's campaign HQ, support for Nigel Farage's party seems to be strong. Are you concerned about Jeremy Corbyn's line on ISIS, on suicide bombers, on shoot to kill?
Yeah. I think the only way to deal with people like that is like we like. You know, no appeasement.
UKIP's contender is John Bickley. Are you going to win?
Why not? I think the voters will decide that, to be honest, but we shouldn't be at the races here, neither should anyone else. This has been a Labour heartland for 70 years. Clearly, Corbyn is toxic here, but it's not just happened overnight. Something's going on in Labour heartlands. They feel betrayed by the Labour Party.
If you're an MP, you get elected, the vote happens. Do the British bomb ISIL in Syria?
I think
How would you vote?
Well, I would find out what my leadership is currently considering to do. We've learnt our lessons that in the Middle East, what looked to be the right idea has turned into something quite bad. I mean, ISIL arguably have been able to use the West's intervention in Iraq and Afghanistan and Libya as a recruiting sergeant.
But this sounds a bit wishy-washy to me. Where's UKIP stand?
Well, hold on. I said earlier, to be fair, you know, it's above my pay grade.
Right.
Mr. Carswell and my leader will be, no doubt, issuing a formal statement about our response to this. So I'll remember my position in the hierarchy and defer to them.
Hello, sir. I'm very sorry to disturb you. My name's James. I'm the Conservative parliamentary candidate.
I'm voting Conservative, I'm afraid.
OK, that's not a problem at all. Can you just leave my plan here anyway?
No,
All right, well, thanks for opening the door. Nice to speak to you. OK, bye-bye. Oh. Am I trying to find someone who's actually in, or am I just knocking on doors randomly?
I'm just looking at the fashion point here, sort of blue Anoraki thing, canvas shoes.
Yes.
Is this the look of a wannabe Conservative MP?
This is my look. This is for good or for bad, this is what I wear, John.
The man with the big blue rosette is James Daly. The Tories came third here last time. Are you worried about UKIP?
I knock on these doors because I want to do good, I want to help people, I want to try and solve local problems. So when that's your motivation for going into politics, that's what my mind is concentrating on. Other parties will worry about their campaigns or do whatever they want to do. I just want to get out there, talk to people and say to them, there is somebody here with a plan. There is somebody here who is representing those issues and is concerned about those issues which matter to you. And if you elect me, then I will act upon them.
Labour's champ, Jim McMahon, went to Oldham College. A safe place for him to canvass, you'd think. Hello, you naughty smokers. Who do you think's going to win here?
I reckon UKIP, from what's happening with ISIS and everything, and what they're saying seems to be the right thing at the moment. So UKIP.
UKIP.
Possibly UKIP.
I was lucky enough eventually to get an apprenticeship at Manchester University as a technician. I came to this college to...
Labour's troubles can't have helped on the doorstep. Have you got a copy of Chairman Mao's Little Red Book?
I haven't, no, but I've got the Oldham Tourism Guide if you'd like a copy.
Correct me if I'm wrong, for the Labour Party leader, you supported Liz McKendall, yeah?
I haven't told anybody how I voted. What I can say with confidence is I voted for every candidate in different orders.
Was Jeremy Corbyn your number one choice as Labour?
Listen, I like you a lot, but this is a new relationship. I hope you appreciate that I'm not going to give you information I haven't given to anybody else.
Sure thing.
But you got to appreciate my point of view. Jeremy is the leader of the Labour Party. He's providing a new sense of what politics should be. He's a man of conviction, of principle. Here together.
Would you vote in favour of bombing ISIS in Syria?
So I'm very clear that the fundamental responsibility of government is to look after the well-being and the safety of its citizens. I wouldn't rule out action, but the bar has got to be high for the right reasons. The weight of military that we have in this country carries a massive responsibility to make sure we use it in the right way.
The Liberal Democrats lost their deposit at the general election. We couldn't speak to their candidate, but this MP had just been out canvassing.
People are saying that they've been Labour, but they don't like Jeremy Corbyn's leadership. There's not specific policy points being brought up. I just think seeing the chaos that there is with his own shadow cabinet walking out when he speaks in Parliament, quite extraordinary stuff. But again, they're looking for an alternative, and the people that saying are coming forward in that role is Liberal Democrat Jane Brophy.
Newsnight's best guess is that local lad Jim McMahon will squeak home for Labour with a massively reduced majority. But it's possible that Labour could lose here. The voters of Oldham go to the polls next Thursday. The question is, will Jeremy Corbyn be getting an early Christmas present, or will he find a lump of coal in his sock?
John Sweeney there, somewhere under the horns. So will tonight be seen as a key turning point for Labour? The night the party proved it wasn't scared of a new kind of politics in which members, not members of Parliament, are taking the key decisions? Or is it now in danger of writing itself off as a pressure group that looks in danger of falling apart under the first sign of pressure? Here with me now, Phil Collins from The Times and former Blair speechwriter, and the Labour MP Gavin Shuker. In a moment, we hope to be joined by Shelley Asquith, the Corbyn supporter and campaigner, who is, as we speak, stuck in traffic but racing to get here. Let's talk about this email, first of all. Gavin, thanks for coming in. Is it good to be reaching not just to his MPs, but to all those who've put him where he is now?
Yeah, I didn't see any problem with that at all. Of course, we know what Jeremy's position is, so the consultation isn't going to change that. I think the concern will be that consultation is trying to change the minds of people who, on a matter of principle, sadly can't see eye to eye. I have to say I'm someone that would oppose military intervention in Syria right now, but I think it's frankly untenable that we as a party can't express a collective view on the issue.
But quite an interesting perspective for somebody to say, yes, in this new politics, I actually ask for Labour members, not just the MPs. There's something in that, isn't there, Phil?
Well, Jeremy Corbyn has two claims on the Labour Party. The first is he's a man of principle. He has a very clear view on war, which is stop the war. He was the chairman. He's against it. But that contradicts the other claim he has on the Labour Party, which is we're going to have a great big heated debate. Because what happens if that heated debate brings back something which contradicts your principle? Then what do? You can't hold both these things at the same time. And he's finding that this contradiction, because he's now entered politics for the first time in his life, is starting to tell on him. And he has to come to some decision on Monday. Otherwise, the Labour Party will end up with no position on the question of whether to go to war or not.
But there is a possibility that the voices of the shadow cabinet are overshadowing, if you like, other MPs like Gavin, who doesn't support these airstrikes in Syria. You don't think you're one of 10, you think you're 50%, right?
Yeah, that's probably quite likely, but in politics you've got to command the support of the people that you're leading. And my own personal view is that we'd be much better to face up to the fact that we have a fundamental disagreement on a matter of principle in an area where there's actually a history of people disagreeing and going when they have to. And facing up to people and being honest about it.
OK, so that means, just to clarify, whip it, say we are not going to support the airstrikes, and then, what, face the resignations?
Yeah, or abstentions of many members of the front bench. In a sense, this has been coming for a long time. There are a number of disagreements in the party, but Jeremy needs to command the support of the people that are around him. Otherwise, we're going to be nowhere as a party.
I think it could be worse even than that. My hunch is they'll end up with a free vote, because the only way you can get through this is to just have a free vote. Now, obviously, the downside of that is the Labour Party doesn't have a view on war, but that will fade. It just becomes a bit of a joke party on a major issue. But that's an improvement on the current situation. But the other option is that Jeremy Corbyn could simply decide to lead. He could decide to say, this is my view, you know what it is, I've held it for 30 years, and therefore you're all going to have to walk through. And where you may end up there is then it may be that shadow cabinet members vote against it but don't resign.
Shelley, it's very unfair to pull you in like this. It's just jumped out of the car, whatever. Where do you think Jeremy Corbyn is now? I mean, there are a lot of people saying as soon as you're not listening to your MPs, who actually have been voted democratically, you stop behaving like a political party. You're looking like a giant pressure group.
We've got to remember that hundreds of thousands of people only recently voted for Corbyn and gave him a historical mandate. And I just got an email on my phone to say, what do you think as a Labour Party member we should be doing over Syria? And I think it's great that Jeremy is opening up the party, looking at what the members think, looking at what the whole of the PRP thinks on this issue and showing real leadership. And if he wasn't, you know, people will be saying that he's not showing any leadership. It's a little bit
That's
like
the thing, isn't
win.
it? Suddenly you've got a politician who has got principles, who sticks to them, and then people say he's not showing leadership.
No, he's not sticking to anything yet, because we don't know what he's going to do. He's simply
well,
asking
you know
what
that he's
thinks.
stopped the war and he's always going to be anti-war.
We know exactly what he thinks.
Yes,
of course
we do.
We
do, but we don't know what he's going to do. And as leader of the Labour Party, he now has to do things. He's never had to do anything in his life before. He's simply had to talk, whereas now he has to act. So on Monday, he has to make a decision. What is the position of the Labour Party? Now, it may be that all the emails will come back and they'll say, look, everybody agrees with me, so we're going to whip it through the House of Commons. Fine. If that's what he wants to do, he's the leader of the Labour Party. He's got the right to do that.
I think it's very unfair to say he hasn't had to do anything. You know, he's been a Labour MP for many years and been quite vocally in opposition to a lot of the decisions that Labour has made. There's some people...
In opposition to everything.
Well, not everything, but some Labour MPs and people in the shadow cabinet clearly haven't, you know, learnt from the mistakes that we made.
But does it matter to you, Shelley, when you look and you see that Hilary Benn or Tom Watson and, you know, Maria Eagle, all the rest of it, in his shadow cabinet, don't support the leader? Is that a problem for you? And if they don't support him, should they resign if he doesn't want to go to war in Syria?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and say they should resign or they should be sacked or anything. I don't know what's going to happen within the shadow cabinet, but I think what they need to listen to is the will of the membership, the will of their own supporters. It's not going to be necessarily Jeremy Corbyn coming down on them. It's going to be, you know, the public. Over 70% of Labour Party members don't agree that we should be bombing Syria. And you look at the disenfranchisement that happened with Iraq, with Afghanistan.
It does seem that people have sort of quite happily or quite simply forgotten how much anger there was publicly about Iraq, and now it's almost becoming a judgment of whether, you know, Corbyn has leadership or Corbyn showing the right things, as opposed to whether it's about the war at all.
Oh, I don't think that people have forgotten the anger about Iraq. Actually, I think that Iraq hangs very heavily over the whole thing. I think the reason it's very difficult to get a vote for Syria is precisely about Iraq. So I think Iraq is over all of this. But it still remains the case that the Labour Party is now in a mess and Jeremy Corbyn has to find a way out of it.
How does it feel from the inside, Gavin, to you now? I mean, do you think this is overblown, overstated, this idea of the chaos within? Or do you feel, as an MP, that you're looking for leadership which isn't there?
Well, as a Member of Parliament, I'm going to make my judgment based on the evidence in front of me. And actually, ultimately, the loneliest place for you as a Member of Parliament is making that decision to go to war or not. And I think whichever judgment you make, for or against, you're going to be making it on your own.
Do you need
decision.
leadership then? Do you need a leader who tells you what he thinks, or do you just want to be left alone to make this decision?
My own personal view is there's nothing wrong with walking away from a whipped position. Jeremy's done it for 30 years, for example. But it's not tenable for us to be a party of opposition, the main opposition party, or even a party that wants to be in government, if we're not willing to express a collective view on something as important as this, the greatest security threat that we face.
And there have to be resignations then?
Well, I would always hope to avoid it, but ultimately, if we go in and have a free vote, the only way you're going to know where the Labour Party stands is by counting the number of MPs that vote on the day. It's not a good look.
It would be pretty remarkable if you had a shadow Foreign Secretary who did not agree with the whipped position of the party on a matter of war. It would be unprecedented and remarkable. And this chaos is foreshortening Jeremy Corbyn's time as leader without question. I mean, you showed the Times before, which, you know, exclusively and brilliantly pointed out that there is already MPs looking for legal challenges to see whether they can force him off the ballot. Now, whether that's right or whether that's wrong, that is starting to surface. It's starting to happen. And he has to have some sort of position that gets him through Monday with the Labour Party's credibility intact.
We'll bring you all back on Monday or possibly Tuesday. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for coming.
I've been getting away